back to you.
Okay. You ready to go on? Okay. Interactivity for better learning and retention. So here I'm focusing on the issue of interactivity, and I'm going to try to answer or deal with 5 questions. Why do interactivity? I'm going to specifically talk about interactive videos. What is an interactive video? How to make interactive videos. I'll show you 2 examples of interactive videos and give you experimental data doing research, because that's what I do. I do research. So we develop these interactive videos, but then we want to test interactive video versus passive videos versus lectures and collect data and to see are they better or not. They sound really good, but they may not be. So I'm going to cover all these 5 issues, and we've already developed, at least publicly, because we've done some work private with companies, but publicly 2 interactive videos on health and safety, one in road safety, one in safety in laser laboratories, and we have papers I'll be happy to send you. We have also developed with the US military interactive video to train soldiers to detect roadside bombs, but that's not in the public domain. So why do interactive videos? What's wrong? We use videos all the time in e-learning or in normal presentations. We show video clips for 5 minutes or 5 seconds or 20 minutes. Why do we want to have interactivity? So you all know that when the learner is not passive, when there's interaction, they get involved, they get engaged, they get motivated, they participate. And all this stuff is really good for the brain stuff that I talk about so much last time here and in my workshops, where we talk about capturing the attention of the learner, talking about depth of processing and mental representation that we want to use, and making good and efficient use to the brain's limited resources. So we don't like passive learners, we like active learners. And again, my lists are never, I want to not leave an impression that I'm covering everything, so I leave always space as the list goes on. And people who were here last year and heard me for an hour know that. Has anybody here been in one of my workshops, my 8 or 16-hour workshops? Pick your hand up. So 2 or 3, and you're here again. Something is wrong with you. So we talk about it in a lot of detail in understanding. So this is great stuff. It's very important to get the learners to be active and not passive. As I like to say, it's damn complicated, so I'll already tell you, but not always good. We've just seen, for those who were here in the previous lecture, all of you, that we gave them their fully interconnected network. They have control, it's interactive, they're not told what to do, and it was the worst learning condition after 2 weeks, not immediately later. So it's not always, it's complicated. So what I want to do is take a video, a passive video, and turn it interactive. Why? Because what do we do now? We show a video, and what happens, rather than the learner sit and watch a video, and I'm sure all of you do it, what do? We say, I'm going to show you a video. Let's say it's learning how to swim, learning how to operate a machine, health and safety, or whatever. When I was a student, the way I financed myself, I was an ambulance driver. So I was trying to deliver babies and all this kind of stuff. So we saw lots of videos, and they'd say, please pay attention. We're going to see a video. Pay attention to this moment. It's very critical. Can you please notice? So we ask them before the video starts to pay attention. We hope that they're engaged when they see the videos. We pray that they're not falling asleep. We really don't know most of the time what is going on when people watch a video. And we ask them to memorize, because usually we don't show a video, we discuss it later. So after you see the video, we're going to have a discussion, and you're going to tell me what you saw, and different people are going to raise different points. So during the video, we want you to memorize and pay attention to stuff. And while they're watching the video, we really have no idea what they're doing, and we have no idea how well they're doing in terms of acquiring information. So all of this is what happens in a passive video. Rather than doing that, which is what we use, and videos are great. I've got nothing against videos. Why not make it interactive? why not have the video make sure they're paying attention? Engage them. Don't let them fall asleep. Know exactly what they're doing while they're looking at the video. It's not mine, I hope. And know how well they're doing in acquiring information. So this is why. A lot of reasons why you want to make a passive video into interactive. Now, what is interactive videos? What makes a video interactive? The learners need to do things and need to get things. That's very vague. So what do I mean, do things? What is do things? For example, they need to point out, if they're in front of a computer, with a cursor. So you have a video teaching them neuroanatomy or teaching them how to fix a car. And then you can say, okay, now put the cursor on the carburetor, or move the cursor to the amygdala, or whatever the training. As they watch a video, they move the cursor to a certain position. Other things they can do, they can detect. They look at a car, so they're teaching to be a car mechanic, detect the fault. What is in the wrong place? Either a leak, detect the leak. And in any domain, give me the domain, I'll give you IT, literacy, flying aircraft, whatever you want. They can have different things they have to detect. And then once they detect, you can ask them to explain. Okay, you've detected this, explain what the problem is. And we'll see very specific examples of this in a minute. And you can ask them questions. You can ask questions which are multiple choice. You can have short questions with short questions and short answers. You can ask them to do whatever you want to do. Here's just a few examples when you ask them to do things. And what do they get out of it? They need to get something out of it. Well, they can get feedback. And again, is Don Taylor here? No, he never comes to my talk. That's why he invites me every year again and again. So if next day if he wants me to give a talk, I'll give a talk on feedback, because it's a very critical element. I mentioned how feedback can increase memory when it's unexpected. And there are different kinds of feedback. There's self-enhancement feedback. Hey, you're doing really well. There is informative feedback, where they get information. And the upward trajectory feedback, where they get more and more feedback as they get along. And there's a whole lot of issues, but you can give them feedback in a nutshell. You can give them rewards for meeting challenges. Can you detect all the problems? You detect 5, you get, depending on the organization and the context, in the military, you get a weekend leave, or you get money, or you just get some kind of reward. And also they can feel progression and advancing. So, oh, you're really doing well. We see you understand the material. Or in the class, you're on the top 5 in the class. You know, you have a very high score. You're not a novice. Your performance is moving towards expertise. So they need to get all these kind of things as they interact. It's not only that they need to do something, they need to get, I've seen some interactive e-learning that I've assessed for companies. They ask questions, and it says, you're doing well, and they move on. And I really don't want to be rude, but I was testing them. So they asked me a question, and I said, fuck you. And he said, you're doing well, and moved me on. So it doesn't take the learner 2 minutes to see that this is not really interaction when you ask them to do a test and they give the wrong answer, and it moves you on. It doesn't say, hey, you idiot, what, didn't need to pay attention, go again. That's for even a very unsophisticated learner, 2 minutes and they figure it out. So we talk about interaction that is meaningful, not only in terms that you have to do things, but they get things and they get quality things, and there's meaningful interactions. And again, the list goes on and on. I'll show you examples, but what you ask them to do and what you give them depends on your creativity. You can do lots of stuff. So that is what we're talking about. How do you make interactive videos? Again, it's a whole workshop with hands-on experience where we take a video and make it interactive. But basically, you need to edit the film using Adobe Premiere, and you create interactivity, for example, with Adobe Flash or Adobe Photoshop, standard software. 5-10 years ago, you needed a special laboratory here. It's basic software, probably most of you have it, And if you don't have it, you can buy it in a bundle deal in one go. It's quite cheap. There's a Creative Suite 3 production. Here is the link to buy a bundle of the software. Not very expensive, and I'm willing to bet that most of you have used or have Adobe Photoshop or some of this is very basic tools to make it interactive. So we're not talking about special software that you need training and stuff like that. Now let me show you examples. I'm going to show you 2 examples. So example 1 is, and you see different kinds of interaction, different things that we do. This example is road safety. Let's see that to get it. Okay, it's not good. Just making sure that you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, that's more or less fine. So here it's personal, so you enter your name. You don't have to do it, and have implication when somebody knows it's not anonymous. Because I'm not going to say the F word again. If I typed my name, then definitely I'm going to have a different attitude. So it can be with name or without name. And you turn on, in this case, the video, and you have to identify hazards that are happening. And every time you think you see a hazard, you need to click. So this is taking road safety when you take surveys. Double line, that's not very good. So I click here, and I put in parking, and who I can, up to you. Here we have who did it affect, what would you do to reduce the risk involved. So you can ask any question, and you click and you submit it. As you submit it, there is a pause button here. As you submit it, then it puts it up here. So it's keeping a list of what you're doing, and you can see the list. Let's continue. Sandals may not be the best thing to wear, so you have, maybe you need shoes or something, and who it affects and what can happen. And the video goes on for about 2.5 minutes. He looks like he's going camping, but he's doing a road survey. This is to teach road safety in road surveys. I think he didn't even put the handbrakes. The car is going to roll down in a minute for disappearing, because they forgot to put the handbrakes on, and so on and so forth. And then the video goes on for a few minutes, but you have to pay attention, and you need to click every time that you identify a hazard and say what it is. Then you finish stage 1. And we always have 3 stages. This is stage 1. Here, I don't know if you can see, it says your answers have been submitted for marking. So you don't get marking right away. In the second video, you get marking right away. It tells you how well you're done. Here it goes to marking for later. And then you kind of see what you've done or not. So now it's going to go over and show you all the hazards. So then it goes over it for a second time, showing you all the hazards, what was done and what should have been done. And after you see all the hazards, we do it for a third time, combining the video with the hazard and telling you what they are. So now you're going over it for the third time, and it shows you exactly, and then say, oh, I got this one, but I didn't get the next one. And it can go automatically, or you can click, and it shows you all the hazards integrated in the video. So you see video, participation, what they get, then they see the hazards, what they needed to learn, and then combined and integrated. And again, on the right side, it lists all the things. So this is example 1 of an interactive video. Example 2 is very different. Get the instruction. And here, let me pause already from the beginning. Here, every time you do something, you start as a novice, and up here is expert, and every time you give a right answer, it goes up. Every time you give a wrong answer, it goes down, first of all. And there are different kinds of interactions. So I clicked here. I don't have to say what the problem is. It tells me. So I click there, and this is a laser laboratory, health and safety, and watch is on doing an experiment. You're not supposed to have a watch on in a laser laboratory, because if the laser hits the wrist, it can bounce off and blind you and so on. So here, it tells you what you don't have to identify. You identify the area, and it can give you the information. And I did find it, so I'm going up. I'll give you an example of a different interaction. Here I have multiple choice. So here, is the laser correctly labeled? It's a multiple choice, so there's a few answers. I'll start answering correctly. So every time I answer correctly, first of all, I get a tick. And I don't know if you can see, there's a tick and a smiley right here. And every time I do it, the bar goes up. I'll give another few answers. You see how the bar is going up nicely. And then if I give a wrong answer, then I get an X. Can you see this? An X, a frowny face, and the bar goes down. I'm not doing well. And this is individual score. You can have in parallel the class, the other people who are doing the same video. If you want to add competition, almost turn it into a game if you want to do it. But this is the multiple choice. And again, every time you have it, it lists it up here. And I won't bore you through the laser safety laboratory of all the mistakes. At the end of the video, stage 1, it gives you a score right away. You've scored 14%. I wanted to have, if you scored less than 25, it would say something about you, but they didn't want it to be too direct. And they said you only identified 2 out of 14 hazards, and you get immediate feedback. And again, stage 2, it tells you what the mistakes are. So it goes all the errors. So you go over it and say, oh, I got this one, oh, I missed this one, and so on and so forth. And when you finish going all over them, we do stage 3, where it combines them again. It shows you the problem. So you have the video running, and every time there's a problem, it tells you at least what the problems are. So to save time, I'm not going to go through all of it. And there are different kinds of interaction in this interactive video. And when we designed it, we had to talk to the people who were interested. Well, do you want the video to teach them? Do you want it to test them? Do you want to do both of them? And so on and so forth, depending a lot on the things that are around it. So in the last few minutes, I've explained, why we want interactive videos, what they are, how, and showed you 2 examples. But again, they only scratch the surface. And the example that I can show you, we have a paper on 2 papers on each one of those examples that I'm happy to send you. The example I can't show you, I may be able to show you at a later stage when they let me, but definitely not a paper, is training Marines to identify roadside bombs. So we had cameras on real roads as they travel. And before they go for deployment, they have interactive videos. They have to click when they see a roadside bomb, or they think something is a roadside bomb. And if they don't, then they blow up. And if they do, they get points, and so on and so forth. It's almost like a video game that they play. But instead of what they did before, when they watch a video, say, okay, now we're going to see the video. Every time you think there's a bomb or something, write it down. At the end of the video, 20 minutes or 10 minutes later, when half of them are sleeping, say, okay, now, what did you see? Oh, you saw that, but somebody saw else, and they have to put the video again, and it's very, very different, rather than interactive on the spot that you get, and you can add humor if you want to or not, and do it. There are many ways to do that. The last thing I want to talk about is the scientific testing of the data. So it looks really good, and that's great. There's lots of bias for this, but is it better? It sounds like it, but we need to do the science and need to do the research. So we have a few papers on that where we quantify and test this. I'll just give you a part of the results. All the results are consistent with this. I'm not just cherry picking what I want to show you, and I'm happy to send you the papers. So in the scientific testing, we had a number of conditions. Condition 1, they saw a non-interactive video which explains everything, has auditory, standard video that you may see. Another group of people saw an interactive video. And the third group of people, we said, sometimes you don't have a teacher if you do remote and distant learning. But if you do it in other formats, you can see the video, a non-interactive video, and then have a lecture or discussion. So before you see the video, we'll talk about it, and I'll show you the video, and then we'll discuss it. So it's not by itself, it is with a discussion and going over and explaining and so on and so forth. And what we've done in this specific test, we, again, assigned people randomly to the 3 conditions, and after that they were tested on their knowledge. We did it immediately after, and we also wanted to see retention, because as you've seen, and here we decided to go for 6 weeks. Why 6 weeks? That's a good question. It was more than 2 weeks, and also it's practically getting the same people to do the test, and they get lost and stuff like that. So it would be really nice to do it again after a year, but we did 6 weeks. I'll give you the immediate data because I haven't finished looking at the 6-week data yet. It's still being analyzed. But what are the results? Non-interactive video, the average score was a bit over 40, almost 41% of the test was answered correctly. The interactive video, much higher, statistically significant, 73.22. And when we compared it to a non-interactive video with a lecture, we didn't care if it's as good or even better than the interactive video, because nobody can replace a lecturer. And again, which lecturer do we choose? We chose a good one, because I can give some lecturers that would not enhance the score. But we got a 64.44. So in fact, the interactive video by itself was more than watching a non-interactive video, even if it afterwards there was discussion with a group leader on the results. So these results show that interactive video can be, I'm not saying they always are, can be very efficient. That doesn't mean, because then I'm going to be asked in a minute, that every domain interactive videos are good. It doesn't mean that in a domain that you have video, that making them interactive is necessarily better. I think it can be if the domain is right and if you do it properly, and you have to be very creative what you're doing. I showed you examples or mentioned examples in the interaction. It's just to say we have interactive e-learning or interactive video, but the interactiveness is very superficial. You ignore, and people right away see that you give the right answer, you give the wrong answer, nothing happens. So unless really people who are challenged, they don't notice. But anyone notices in a few minutes that there's consequences, that they get things, they give things, and then this shows that there is a potential. It doesn't mean that every time it's going to be great. So these are the few words of the scientific experimentation that we've done, some examples, why, what, and how. Thank you very much, and again, more information are here. Thank you.